you marketers out there. My name is Ian, and you're listening to another marketing strategy talk. And recently, I had the pleasure to sit down with Daniel Murray of Service Titan. Daniel is the Senior Marketing Operations Manager, and he possesses an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to marketing. In our talk, we dive into the non-linear path that has led him to marketing, what his tech stack looks like at Service Titan, what's been an absolute game changer for him and his team this year, and yes, even how he's managed to more than double his following on LinkedIn in just a few short months. This talk is absolutely loaded with marketing nuggets, and I know you're going to love Daniel's approach on things. So without further ado, let's dive into the talk. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and visit us at marketingstrategy.com, where you'll find the most effective strategies for rapid growth for marketers by marketers. Till next time. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for joining me on another marketing strategy talk. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So just diving right in here, man. I think we're going to talk about a lot of things in this talk today, but I really wanted to start off with one of your posts that you had recently, which was basically something along the lines of like, hey, Harvard is charging a shit ton of money, like $50K for their online courses, but here's all of the things you need as a marketer to learn without going to Harvard. And I love that post. I think it blew up, over 2,200 likes and comments and things like that. But what was like the most significant piece of either content or a book or an article that leveled up your game as a marketer?
I think it wasn't even content in a book. I think the biggest thing that leveled me up was learning by doing. When I started my first couple of jobs, I just kept asking for more and more work. I kept deciding to go to different departments and asking them to give me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helped me the most. And then obviously I got book recommendations over time and that helped me refine things. But I think as a marketer, it's being in the trenches, learning is the best way to
Yeah,
do
so
it.
let's unpack that because I completely agree. There's nothing that can replace experience. That's been one of those themes that I've been just seeing over and over again. So how did you get to where you're at? So you're senior marketing operations manager at Service Titan, but what was the journey along that way? Like, give us some examples of kind of in the trench marketing that you've kind of run into.
Yeah, it was very nonlinear. So coming out of college, I was like, I just want a marketing job. There was not many marketing jobs in San Diego, so I was like, okay, let me just take a job. And it was a job learning marketing automation. It was like you can get certified and start consulting on this, and I'm like, oh, cool, marketing and a software. Like this is really cool. So I started actually becoming a marketing automation consultant for Pardot. So I worked for an agency that basically implemented Pardot for other companies,
Mm-hmm.
helped them like use it. And then I decided I was like, okay, I love working with companies. I love learning all about their businesses, but I can't see results at one company. So I decided to take a leap and move to Los Angeles to work for a startup. And I think working for a startup was where my first startup that I worked for at Snack Nation Los Angeles was like probably the biggest learning. It was like my CMO was like hardcore direct response marketer.
Love that.
Um,
Yeah.
he like was an expert copywriter. He was in the trenches with us. He followed Gary Halbert and Russell Brunson, all these big names that you hear. And I just got all these learning from like we had a team of like 5 to 6 good demand gen marketers, and all was just like learning together and growing
Mm.
together. And I think that experience like helped me like broaden my marketing experience. And then I moved on to Oracle, which I don't even want to talk about. Oracle because big companies are not where it's at. In my opinion, it's good for some people, just not for my type of
I'm with you.
marketing. And then I went to another startup in LA where I just ran all marketing automation and operations. Learned a lot about like ICP and segmentation and using data to target the right customers, and um, love that. But I still wanted this like to be around, learn from a great marketers, and that's what led me to Service Titan, where I see like I'm surrounded with a great director, senior director of demand gen, a great VP of marketing. I work with them daily, and this marketing operations role. It's not the typical marketing operations role because um, I have someone on my team who isn't. We have an analyst who handles the data, and
Hmm.
I have people handling the tech stack, and I'm more in the weeds of finding out how to optimize the pipeline, optimize revenue, looking at different channels to see where we're screwing up, all the way through the funnel. So this has been probably one of the best experiences I've had besides Snack Nation.
That's great, man. That mirrors my experience. I've done the big company thing. I've done the startup thing. Something about the startups where you kind of just have to do it all is
Hmm.
super immersive. You learn so much quicker. You fail quicker. But you get to kind of experience a bunch of different things that when you work at a company like an Oracle or in my case, CIT Bank, which is a SIFTY organization, it's basically too big to fail. I'm pretty sure Oracle is around there at this point, that level. Um, it just, you get one area, right? You do one thing and you're completely dedicated to that one thing. You don't really get to kind of spread your wings and go and bounce around and try different things. So I'm with you on the startup thing. I agree. Big company is not where it's at, for at least for me either. But
Hmm.
so diving into Service Titan, you mentioned that you're optimizing. You're looking for like revenue optimization, things that are working, things that aren't. Give me like one thing that is crushing it for Service Titan right now from the marketing standpoint.
I think when I came on, we started doubling and tripling down on content.
Hmm.
And this is the reason why it's not really a channel, but it helps every channel like evolve. And I think that's where we started crushing it. And it's helped our paid social, it's helped our um, SDRs and MDRs, align them with more content to distribute. It
Hmm.
allows the AEs to use the content. So I think doubling down on content creation has like exponentially helped every single channel that we have. I think our total our total CAC payback is awesome, but looking at even every channel, if you see like paid, paid social has gone up, SEM's gone up, and everything has gone up just because we're doubling and tripling down on content.
Nice. Would you say you're on the quality or the quantity side? Sounds like you guys are pushing out more, but I mean, if you guys had to pick a side, where would you land on that?
I think definitely it's a mixture of both. I think you have to pump up both at the same time. I think quality is the way to go, but if it takes too long,
Hmm.
then I would say quantity is the best way to do it because I think at the end of the day, it's how much value you're producing for the end user and separating it to talk direct, like one to one with that type of prospect. We're in many different industries, so making sure we separate it by the smaller shops, the medium shops, the enterprise, but also like what type of industry and talk to their specific pain points. There are common pain points in the field service industry that align, but um, talking to like an HVAC shop where a small HVAC shop where they're starting to care about revenue and care about um, starting to scale their business and care about being more efficient is different than a big shop that is looking to optimize their
Yeah.
whole business and whole. So
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think you can see that across industries too, for sure. So, what's your tech stack look like? I'm kind of curious.
it's huge. Yeah, so we have Marketo's on marketing automation.
Yep.
We have Salesforce, which I feel like everybody has Salesforce these days.
Yeah. Same.
And we have Drift, we have Gong, we have Segment on top of everything. We have all, if you consider all the Google Analytics, Google AdWords, those are part of the tech stack somewhat. We have Visible. We have uh, just so many
Yeah,
different
I
tools that we're
know.
using. It's
I could go
crazy.
down a list too, to be honest. What's like
Yeah,
the one piece that jumps out at you as like the biggest game changer?
I think it's like the least talked about one, but I've been using Marketo and Salesforce, so I know they're efficient.
Yeah.
I know they're good, but I think Gong for the marketing team is a game changer. I think the ability for our content team and our demand gen folks to go and listen to conversations that customers are having and actually hear their pains at all different stages is a game changer because I think that at the root of all marketing is customers and knowing them to a deeper level, and you can hear it honestly on their voice when you and actually talk like them when
Mm.
you transfer that out. So I think Gong is one of the biggest game changers, even though it's not a marketing technically tool. Um, it a game changer for marketing.
I know exactly what you mean. So we use it's not Gong, but it's SalesLoft for specifically recording meetings and things like that through a sales operations type of play. But what's happening is like we used to sit on the calls, which is a little awkward. I think when you have just people kind of stragglers on the outside, it's a little weird. So what we've done is we just started recording the calls, um, prospecting customer, and we listen back to them, and it's been invaluable. And it's definitely everybody talks about it. I think that's one of those things that maybe you've hit on your LinkedIn profile too. Is like everybody talks about listening to customers, but I think not a ton of people actually do it, and that could be controversial.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely not. I never. It's like pulling teeth. Like I told the marketing team and our director of demand and told our marketing team like, oh, there's Gong recordings on every Salesforce record, and they're like, oh, there's Gong recordings. Like, it just was like crazy to like not know that people know that like they have that good resource on every
yeah.
record.
It's nuts, and it's been and it's really cool too because they can do some reporting on the back end where it kind of gives you some sentiment analysis, which is awesome. But
Mm.
all right, man. So let's shift gears. LinkedIn. So I think you have a ton to offer here as well. Where you've been, I mean, when I first connected with you, I think you were at like 3 or 4K followers. Now you're at 8 or 9K even. I think. So let's dig into this a little bit. Like, how are you increasing followers like that? How do you formulate your posts? What can you give us? Because I think it's been super impressive just kind of being on the sidelines and watching your rise.
So one thing I do is I follow people who are leaders in the industry. So like the Dave Gearhards, the Chris Walkers, and stuff like that. And I see who likes their content, and I will go and follow some of their people. So I
Hmm.
will follow like 20 to 30 people a day on their stuff. Um, when I first started out, I started doing that
Hmm.
because I'm posting pretty relevant content, and
Right.
they're the audience I want to um, connect with. So I started doing that, and then now it's becoming pretty organic as my posts are going pretty well.
Hmm.
Um, but I think at first I would recommend anybody who's on LinkedIn, like, and I wouldn't just make them blanket invitations. I would have like a little note that describes why you're connecting with them. Um, actually build like that can one-to-one connection. Actually take the time to do that. It's not this automation where you click and follow 30 people. It's actually
Right.
meaningful, looking at their profile, seeing if they'll actually understand what you're saying. Which that's what I did at first. In terms of post structure, I just like to. It's funny because people ask me all the time, "Do you schedule your posts? Do you do this? Do you that?" I'm like, no. I literally have notes in my phone, and whenever I hear something cool, I will just write it down.
Yep.
Uh, and the night before, I will literally take one of those notes and formulate a post out of it. So,
Nice.
like, I have a bunch of notes that are stemming from like earlier in my marketing career to now. Some have thoughts have changed a lot since I started, but
Sure.
that's literally how I do things. Like, I just keep my like basically my idea swipe file in my phone and take posts from that.
That's a great idea. I do something similar. It's on notes. Same thing. Little ideas here and there that some are posts, some aren't. But yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. Um, all right. So this is really what I want to talk to you about. Daniel. So, like, do you think it's important for entire companies to basically get behind LinkedIn and have their employees posting regularly, and why or why not?
I think it's crucial because I think it's becoming that um, your company brand is your employees, and I think it shows personality. Like if you see companies like Gong, Drift, G2, like you see how cool the people are working for them. They're posting their own stuff. You know they're knowledgeable. They know they're good play. If it, at minimum, it helps like your employer brand to show like you this is a great place to work.
Yep.
At maximum, it starts actually generating huge customers, and especially when like C levels and VPs are posting. Like Dave started at Drift, and Udi's doing a Gong and stuff like that, and Kyle Coleman's doing. They're all bringing this like community to their company, but also creating their employee brand at the same time. So I think it's crucial. I think there are some industries that don't, but at minimum, like this is for people to grow their personal brand. So you should encourage your employees anyway to do this. Like, and if you're scared that they're gonna leave, like that's more of an internal problem than like a like every manager should strive to like grow their employees, and that's one way I think is the biggest way to grow. Is
Yeah.
having a personal brand.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there are some companies that are excelling at this, like you said, the Gongs, the Drifts, the G2s, even Clary. I think is another one that jumps out. I know you're close
Mhm.
with Nick Bennett. He was also on a previous episode, but they're all doing extremely well at not only displaying subject matter expertise, but like just raising the profile of their company. I didn't know who Clary was until I started connecting with the right people on LinkedIn. And all of a sudden, they're just all up in my grill because they are just locked down as far as like employee generation of their content. And it's just a way better way to experience in a company as opposed to, for example, posting on your company profile something that only your company cares about. I mean, you might as well let your employees speak about what's important to them, let them come off as experts. And I think I did a quick analysis on when I started posting for my personal account, and I looked at the customer gauge stats, which is the company I work for. We didn't change anything at the company level, but when I personally started posting, we saw a 4,000% increase in visits to the
That's
company page.
crazy.
It's nuts.
That's
So it's like
crazy.
that's a tough sell, right? Internally, for I think a lot of people is like, how do you convince your boss to post regularly? So I'm gonna throw it back to you. Like, what have you guys experienced as a result of like outputs from LinkedIn, if any? And do you think it's a legitimate business strategy as far as like revenue generation?
I know for me, I mean, there's only a couple people at Service Tyson posting, and I'm still trying to like plant that seed inside the
Yeah.
company. But I have there's been a lot of like recruiting um, from it. Like people will put my name and like that they saw my post on LinkedIn and
Yep.
they're excited to come to the company. So I think for Service Titan, it's done that. I know for like other big brands where like the reason why Service Titan's kind of hard is because there's not a lot of like plumbers and electricians and stuff like that on LinkedIn. Oh, there's more than we think there are, but it's just harder to get that audience. Like for Gongs and Drifts, like they're targeting salespeople and marketing people, which they are living on LinkedIn. So it's
Yeah, for
like
sure.
they have their audience. So some industries it's kind of harder to do that, but I still think that like like I posted a video of like something service tied and not like promoting or anything, but it was kind of just showing a video of like why it's important, the trades are important during this like COVID time.
Yeah, right.
And 15 or 16 like people in the industry like shared it. So it's like I was showing internally, I'm like, look, this is just from me. And I didn't even have a following at that time. Like, look what the CEO and the president could do and the VPs could do if they
Yeah.
posted.
That's really cool. And I think the more people that do it too, there's this like almost like a network effect that happens when the profile just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. Like I said, I didn't really understand what Clary did or Gong really did. I mean, I knew of them, but didn't really get it until I started seeing like 5 or 6 employees post on it a day, and then I was like, all right, cool, that's exactly who they are and what they do. Um, but LinkedIn's interesting, man. Where do you kind of see it evolving? So, like, I think I have this theory, and you're actually um, going against this theory. So just hang in there with me while I spit this out.
Mm.
Um, I think that like guys like Dave, um, specifically hit LinkedIn with a playbook where not a lot of other people were using that playbook, like 5-10 years ago on LinkedIn. And he got pretty big pretty fast. Jason Lemkin's another example of that, where he was like 8 years ago, he was doing all of the stuff we're all doing now, which is just adding value, adding serious insights, actionable stuff, tactical, all the way. And I think it's interesting now, at least the way I view it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's going to be tougher for people like you and I and other marketers out there to use that same playbook to stand out in a crowd. Though, like I said, you are already doing that. Your followers have increased significantly. So that's maybe an exception to the rule. But where do you kind of see it evolving? Do you think that people can run that same playbook and be successful? Or do you think that LinkedIn will evolve to something else in the coming years?
I think the playbook will be around for a year or two. That you could people will see some growth from it. I think there's still a lot less content creators. Let me preface as like good content creators on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Um, I think that it will become like Facebook did and Instagram did, meaning like the people who are influencers now are still growing, but then the people who are like smaller, it's going to just be tougher and tougher to get that reach.
Yep.
And that's because people are going to start realizing and flooding. It's just like supply and demand. Like right now, there's a lack of supply and there's a lot of demand for knowledge. And
Hmm.
I think once the the supply starts increasing and more people catch on, then I think that people find it harder. So I feel like we're at a good time in LinkedIn right now, but
Yeah.
I don't
Same.
think that time's gonna last for long. I know even now, like some of the views are going down, but I've also seen a lot of like smaller content creators go up, and it's due to I think it's due to a couple of things. I think it's due to them knowing like what content resonates to their audience. I
Hmm.
think it's posting like those aha like things like, oh, cool, I didn't do that. It's posting actionable things like things that they could go and do right now to fix their business. And honestly, the best LinkedIn playbook to me is give away all your secrets for free.
Yep. I
Um,
agree.
that's like the best. Like give away your strategies, give away your everything you know for free. And the funny part is that probably 95% of people won't even take action on it. So but at least you're you're helping that 5% do
Yeah.
something with it. So
You mentioned Facebook, and I'm going to do a complete 180, so I apologize. But I'm kind of curious. So you guys are Service Titan. Um, you must be crushing it on Facebook ads now. I'm just guessing,
yeah,
like, what depend.
we're crushing on Facebook ads.
Yeah, I was going to say your demo must live on Facebook. And what's your like average ticket? Would you say?
So average, it's probably 1,300 per deal, like monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And we actually pretty have so we actually at first were struggling a little bit at Facebook before I got on there. And when I came in, like that was one of my big focuses to increase that channel. So
Yep.
we actually, the last 3 months, we like 3x like the deals on that channel. So and it was due to little tweaks. It was like better audience targeting. We started getting creative that was more native to platforms. We started showing more content top of funnel and less like asking. We had some offers come in, which offers are great um, to get people that initial interest. I still think like the content play on Facebook is great. Like you can, we get I think $3.50 cost per subscriber to like our blog from Facebook, which is insane.
That's
Like
amazing.
for
Yeah.
that, so and that's something we want. We want people just to get gain value from so. But at the end of the day, like revenue is the the mark. So when I say 3x, it's 3x the revenue of that channel, not 3x like the leads. So I want to preface that, like
Yeah.
even 3x leads, it was revenue.
Yeah, that's interesting. I talked to my previous episode was Dylan Hay. He runs like PPC for a lot of different SaaS companies, and we're in the process of figuring that out as well. We have a pretty decent flow of leads from Facebook. We just haven't quite gotten them to consistently convert yet. So we're trying to
Mm.
like over qualify at the top. We've tried LinkedIn in the past. It's just way too expensive, especially for our audience. Tried Google. It's more expensive, converts better, but still pretty pricey based off of our competition. So it's um, pretty heated as far as the companies spending money. We're up against some just companies that are in the billions of dollars in revenue. So
I'm interested about that because like I think we crush on Google, and I think we crush on Google because our brand is so strong.
mm,
And like I think like because we're like known in the industry, so people know about us, and that's why we crush on Google. So I
yeah,
think like one of the best like, and just segmenting onto what you're saying is like you can run as many ads, but like branding literally helps so much when it comes to every channel, like especially like the high intent searches like
hmm,
people are looking for. Like when you say search for a certain type of software and that name comes up and you recognize that name, it's like okay, I want to go with it, check this company out.
exactly. And I think that's the power of brand, man. I mean, right there, exactly what you said is like it kind of reduces the barriers to make that first interaction. I think our company specifically, we're not well known, I would say, but we're smallish compared to our competition. So we're doing like longer tail keywords just because we're getting priced out of the bigger ones. But yeah, it is interesting like how big of a lever brand can be. We were doing some like physical events right before COVID hit that were really starting to pick up momentum. We had like a couple hundred people show up, and we had some really good speakers from like Salesforce and Anheuser-Busch and things like that. So brand is definitely big. We're struggling to uh, utilize that online, I think, without getting priced out of the market. So that's kind of like the kind of just juxtaposition we're in right now. But Facebook has been super cheap. So to your point, $3.50 for a subscriber, that's unheard of, man. That's really cheap.
Yeah, and I think Chris Walker says this all the time, but like the content play on Facebook is like one of the best plays because one, it's cheap. Two, it's like guiding your buyer to the right place, and
Yep.
three, it's just like some people like let's everybody looks at like okay, we have like a 1 to 2% conversion on your website, right? So, but like that means like at least like 90% of the people, some are customers are coming to your site, but at least 90% of the people aren't ready to buy or not there yet. So
Yep.
that's why it's so important as that content top of funnel. And I think that that's why we're like hitting hard on the subscriber side of it and trying to just like do it and then retarget them with more content on Facebook, and then also use email as a great channel to nurture
Yeah.
them and send them more content.
I'm still blown away by how big email is. I mean, it's so important, man. Like building that list is just one of those things that I don't think is going away anytime soon. It's just so impactful.
And it's
Uh,
so funny to me. It's like I one thing I'm not the biggest fan on, and people give me a little hate is gated content, but I think like subscribing to your blog is the way to go. But or like subscribing to like a tool that you produce for something. But I think like there's nothing like owned real estate.
Yep.
Like the thing is like you could take like say Marketo shut down tomorrow. You could take that email list and go to HubSpot. You could
Yep.
take that email, but you can't take like if LinkedIn shut down tomorrow, I couldn't take the 8,000 people who are connected with me to somewhere else if I don't have them as emails or phone numbers or somewhere else.
Shout out to was it Phantom Blaster? I don't know if you've heard of that tool.
No, I haven't. What is
Yeah, you might
that?
want to check that out. So Phantom Blaster is like one of the cooler tools in the marketplace. Shout out to I think it was Adam Goyette from old G2 CMO that basically he's doing like an office hours thing. He turned me onto it, but it was basically a program that scrapes LinkedIn, but they have a bunch of really kind of unique, think of like Zapier recipes,
Hmm.
but it's like LinkedIn specific scraping recipes. Like you can scrape everybody that liked your post and get an email or match it to an email. I mean, it's pretty badass. Definitely check it out. But
Oh, I want to check that out.
yeah, you might want to look into it. I haven't actually used it myself, but he seemed pretty confident it was pretty great. So it's enough for me. But nice, man. So all right, let's come to the close here. We're coming on the half hour. If you had to name one book that has had the biggest impact on you as a marketer, what would it be?
I would say Influence by Cialdini.
Cialdini. Yeah.
I think what changed my aspect in marketing is I was thinking so much with like tools when I started and thinking so much about like quick hacks, and I admitted like I was that type of market trying to, because I didn't know better, to
Yep.
just try to find a way to get as many people in the door as possible. And then when I started learning about actually like how people like buy and adding these little things to just show them to convince them to become the customer in a good way and show them like what they need. I think it has helped me a ton.
Yeah, that's a great book. Definitely recommend that to anybody listening. That's in my top 10 for sure. All right. So one of the last things I like to do is this thing called word association. So like imagine you're in like this psychiatrist chair, leather, you're leaning back. If I say these words, what are like the 2 or 3 things that you would like words that you would associate with them, or just a quick kind of phrase? Ready for this?
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Marketing operations.
I would say operate efficiently,
Marketo.
powerful automations,
HubSpot.
user friendly,
All right. Drift.
quality conversations,
LinkedIn.
the 2012 Facebook,
Nice. Email.
best marketing channel,
MQL.
overrated metric.
There you go. And Service Titan.
I would just say it's the service software.
Nice.
The first thing to come to mind. Yeah.
So Daniel, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining up. Where can people find you? Let's shout out the plugs.
LinkedIn, that's where I'm most active on. And then all my social channels are dmer68, but I mostly active on LinkedIn. So connect with me there if you want to have a conversation or anything. I'm always down to talk to people.
Can definitely put a recommendation out there for a follow on his LinkedIn. He's piping out content on the daily, all super valuable stuff. Please go follow him right now. Daniel, thank you so much, man. It's been insightful. Love having you on this thing, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.